Om Pratah Smarami Hridhi Samspuradatmatattvam Satchit Sukham Paramaham Sagatim Turiyam Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptamaveti Nityam Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sangha. Atmabodha verses 11 to 15.
नानोपाधिवशादेव जातिवर्णाश्रमादयः आत्मन्यारोपितास्तो ये रसवर्णादिभेदवत् पञ्चीकृतमहाभूत सम्भवं कर्म सञ्चितम् शरीरं सुखदुःखानां भोगायतनमुच्यते पञ्चप्राणमनो बुद्धिः दशेन्द्रियसमन्वितम् अपञ्चीकृतभूतोत्थम् सूक्ष्माङ्गं भोगसाधनम् अनाद्यविद्यानिर्वाच्या कारणोपाधिरुच्यते उपाधिकृतयादन्यम् आत्मानमवधारयेत् पञ्चकोशादियोगेन तत्तन्मय इव स्थितः शुद्धात्मा नीलवस्त्रादि योगेन स्फटिको यथा
The highest spiritual state is when you are able to see the self in others. The self in you is the same self in others. And when you're able to see the self in others, you've accomplished everything that needs to be accomplished. There's nothing more to be accomplished. The moment you see that Atman, the self in you and others. But this is the highest state. You can't practice it. You're either there or you're not there. Now, to work towards that state, what you need to do is you have to spread that identification. Right now, the identification is only upon yourself. If you were to describe it in concentric circles, you first identify with your family unit. That family unit is a small circle. Second is you identify with the community, which is a larger circle around the family. It's a concentric circle. Then you identify with the country, which is an even larger circle. At the moment, the identification is only with yourself, which is literally the dot. That is your identification. So in the middle, if you put a dot, you're identifying with yourself. Then a circle around that dot, which is the family. Then the circle around that, that is a community. Circle around that, a bigger and bigger circles. Now, all these circles of identification help to dissolve that ego, that identity with yourself. The more you expand your identification and you're able to accommodate the interest of others, your desires reduce, your ego reduces. You identify with a common goal. For example, a person takes up women's rights. Suppose a person takes up women's rights and campaigns for women's rights, then that identification is with all women. Immediately you identify with all women. Suppose a person says, children, I want to protect children. Immediately they identify with all children. Similarly, when you fix a common goal, your identification expands. You see that self in all children, you see the self in all women. In that sense, relatively speaking, you see a common factor among those whom you have identified with. So you've got to ask yourself, what is my identification? For example, when we come to a class like this, a scriptural class, a Vedanta class, a Atmabodha class, you identify with all members of this community. Each one of us are so different from each other. In fact, we don't even know each other's personal backgrounds. But the only thing we know for sure is we are all interested in spiritual knowledge. We are interested in spiritual development. That unites us. That is a common factor. Like when everyone comes for the retreat, you say, yes, yeah, I saw you in the class. Oh, you this, you go, you attend the classes. So there is a common conversation. We are not talking about what happens in your personal lives, but you're talking about this common factor. You see that common factor in others. Now you got to keep expanding that. Through knowledge, through understanding, you expand that identification. You see that commonality in others more and more. Highest commonality you see is the self, the Atman. You can't start with the Atman. You have to start with these things. You end with the Atman. Today we're going to examine the three bodies: the gross body, subtle body, causal body. We have indicated it very many times and we have defined what the three bodies are. Now, in the next three verses, Shankara is going to dissect each of these bodies. What is the gross body? What is the subtle body? What is the causal body? What are they constituted of? The entire factors, we're going to examine it. So, gross body is your physical body. It is the vehicle. And beyond this gross body is the subtle body, which consists of emotions and thoughts, mind and intellect. And beyond the subtle body is the causal body. And as the name suggests, that is the cause of your personality. And this causal body consists of vasanas. Sometimes people make a mistake when they read that word. They say it's casual body. It's not casual body. Causal body. CAU is a, not CASUAL. So is anything other than casual. It's not casual. It's very intense. It is the root of your personality. Causal body. We'll see that one by one. Verse 12 is the explanation on the gross body.
Panchīkrita Mahabhuta Sambhavam karma sanchitam Shariram sukha dukkhanam Bhogayatanamochyate Panchikrita mahabhuta Sambhavam karma sanchitam Shariram sukha dukkhanam Bhogayatanamochyate.
The gross body, home for experiencing pleasure and pain, is acquired from past actions. It is constituted of great elements which have gone through panchikarna. And what is the meaning of the word panchikarna? Pentamerous self-division and mutual combination. The description of the gross body is given in this verse. And what is the gross body? First of all, it is defined as the home for experiencing pleasure and pain. It is the place where experiences take place. In other words, if you didn't have a gross body, you can't go through any experience. Whether it is a physical experience or an emotional experience or an intellectual experience, it is all possible because of this physical body, the gross body. It is the home for experiencing pleasure and pain. Home means the container, the place, the vessel, the medium through which we experience pleasure and pain. Pleasure and pain means all the various experiences that you're going through. And how is this gross body created? It is acquired from past actions. Past actions produce present vasanas. And from vasanas comes the gross body. The gross body is the effect of your vasanas. As your vasanas, so the body. If you have unhealthy vasanas, you will have an unhealthy body. If you have healthy vasanas, you have a healthy body. You have lazy vasanas, you have a lazy body. Active vasanas, active body. As the vasanas, so the body. If you want to change the body, you have to change the vasanas. These vasanas are acquired from past actions. Therefore, Shankara says the gross body is acquired from past actions. The way you have to understand it is that the past actions no doubt create your present body, but if you want to change your body, you have the self effort, you have the free will to make that change. Future, how do we define future? Future is the past modified in the present. The past modified in the present is future. Future means this movement forwards. What is going to happen at 6 p.m. today evening is future. And who decides that? How is it decided? Past modified by present. So what you're going to do from now until 6 o'clock, plus what you've done in the past. So that past modified with your present effort, present action, results in the future. Future destiny is not fixed. Future destiny can be changed. Present destiny is fixed. Present destiny you can't change because you're already an effect of what you have done in the past. You can't change what you are at this moment, but you can change what you will be in the next moment, in the future. The gross body is the home for experiencing the different actions, the emotions, the thoughts. Everything is experienced through the physical body. And it is acquired from past actions. So far, it is clear, is easy. Now, there's a little bit of technical explanation that is given. What is the gross body actually made up of? What is the material of the gross body? You know your gross body, you know your limbs, you know the skin, the eyes, all this hair, everything is there. So all this is the gross body. But what is the basic material constituting this gross body are the five elements. Mahabhuta, great elements. Now this is where you've got to pause. And this factor, we don't examine it except in this portion. We keep saying there are five elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. And many of you all know that five elements are there. Now, this is the difference. The difference is these five elements: space, air, fire, water, earth, when they are in their original form, when they are in the subtle form, they create the subtle body, which is what is going to be given in the next verse. But when the same elements go through a process called as panchikarna, they become conditioned elements. They become gross elements. And these gross elements are what you're contacting in the world. Whatever science is talking about and whatever you're contacting in the world are the gross space, gross air, gross fire, gross water, gross earth. But the same elements are also in the subtle form. There is subtle space, subtle air, subtle fire, subtle water, subtle earth. That subtle elements you don't contact, you don't know. The subtle elements create the subtle body. We'll come to that in the next verse. Don't worry about that. But you need to understand this difference between the subtle elements and the gross elements. Orange juice, you get pure orange juice, not from concentrate. Fresh orange juice, pure, freshly squeezed, not diluted by water, not from concentrate. That pure elements are the subtle elements which form the subtle body. But once you dilute the juice with water, it becomes gross. Gross elements create the gross body. So the great elements which have gone through the process of panchikarna. Now, what is this panchikarna? The only place where they explain this is here. Only Shankara explains this. Even science doesn't know this. What is panchikarna? Panchikarna means five elements you have. Now, if you were to depict it in a diagram, see, you have one element is like a oval shaped. Each element is oval shaped. You take five elements, and then you split one element into half. So you get the top half, you get the bottom half of space, top half, bottom half of air, fire, water, earth. You understand? You split it into half. The top half remains as it is. The bottom half, you split it into four. you get thin slices, like sausage, thin sausages you get. For vegetarians, gulab jamun, thin, the shape, I don't know what else to say, the shape, gulab jamun shape. So the element, when you first slice it into half, the top half remains as it is, the bottom half splits into four, each element, all the five elements. Now what will happen is the top half of space is there, the bottom four comes from the other elements. So you have half space plus 1/8 of air, fire, water, earth. Then you have half air, then you get 1/8 of other four: space, fire, water, earth. This is what is called as pentamerous self-division and mutual combination. Sounds highly technical. You understand? So it's nothing. It's very easy. It's not, you hear it, you say, "My God, what is this?" But if you say, now see the diagram, the first diagram, the two diagrams. We'll see the first diagram. You see here. Now these elements in the top row, you see that elements. Those are the original subtle elements in the subtle form. It's called tanmatra. Tanmatra means the original elements, subtle elements. Then when these subtle elements, they divide into two equal parts, they break into half, and the top half remains, the bottom half splits into 4 bits. And then they mutually combine. So in the first column at the bottom, what do you see? You see number one. Number one is space. So the half space plus 1/8 of air, fire, water, earth. And then column two, half air plus 1/8 of space, fire, water, earth. What is the third column? Top part is half fire plus 1/8 of space, air, water, earth. So each one is them mutually combines. So what you see in the last row, that last row is the gross elements which make up the gross body. The first row make up the subtle body. Then it goes through this process of panchikarna and ends up as the last row, which is the gross elements. So in the world, when you say space, air, fire, water, earth is in the last row. That is what people know as space, fire, air, fire, water, earth. Do you all understand? Just go with whatever I'm explaining. That's all. Don't think ahead. Just go with whatever is being explained. If there's any doubts, you clarify that part. Don't think about the application of this. Just the concept you first try and understand. The gross body, home for experiencing pleasure and pain, is acquired from past actions. It is constituted of great elements which have gone through this panchikarna. So what is panchikarna is the subtle elements become gross elements. That conversion of the subtle elements to gross elements, that process is called panchikarna. Nitya?
Hi, I have two questions.
Yeah.
So the first question is with the self-division thing, is that to say that different bodies have like different combinations of like the last in the picture there was
I
four
told
rows, right?
you, don't think ahead. You're thinking ahead. Just understand the concept as it is right now. Don't try and apply it. Do you understand how this division happens, first of all? That half,
How
then
does that division happen?
this process by which that subtle elements becomes gross element, just understand that part. That's all. Don't think further right now. So just stay with whatever I'm explaining right now.
So, Bhaskarji, so the whole circle that is in the picture is the subtle element, right? And then it divides into two. The bottom half becomes the 1/8 of each gross element of all the other four, right? Have I got it right?
No, the gross element is the last row, which is half of the original. It's 1/8 of other things.
Yeah, okay. So the subtle plus the other four become the gross element.
Yeah.
Right?
So, no, wait. Now let's see the second diagram. Sandhya, let's put up the second diagram of Panchikarna. See here, it becomes clear. What is gross space? Gross space is half original space plus 1/8 of air, fire, water, earth.
Got it.
And then gross air is half air plus 1/8 of the others. Gross fire, gross water, gross earth. So that half is the top part, which remains intact. And then the bits from the other ones come and join that half.
Thank you.
Pentamer is self-division. 5 parts it divides into. Pentamerous is 5 parts. So you have the top part, then you have the 4 small bits. So that self-division is pentamerous self-division and mutual combination. Then they combine mutually with elements. And they've captured it in one word, Panchikarna. So Panchikarna is this entire process.
Is that an actual physical process?
It's a physical process, correct. Physical process in the sense it's happening at the subtle level. At the subtle level, you don't see it. You can't contact it. And then when it comes down to the gross elements is what you're contacting. In other words, when you light a fire, physical fire is the gross fire, not the subtle fire. The air, the breeze, when it blows, you say, oh, good, breeze is blowing air. What is that air? That is gross air, not the subtle air. Subtle air, you don't know what it is.
So it's like the physical elements, but then as we experience them, and that is to say that it's a combination of the other things as well as the main thing.
That is the gross elements, which have gone through the Panchikarna process.
Okay, thanks.
Tushar Bhai?
Hari Om Bhaskarji. For the first diagram of Panchikarna, would we potentially like get into an infinite loop? For example, if there's water, 50% of water is water itself, and then within that, so it's almost like each one will have an element of itself forever, right? Like, as in, would you come to an end point?
No, see, you're overthinking it. Don't overthink. Just stay with whatever is given. How does the subtle elements become gross elements? At this stage, just stay with that. Don't think anything further. Elements break down into gross elements. To understand that itself is not easy. So just stay with that for now.
Thanks, Bhaskarji.
Suresh?
Namaskaram. So when we experience gross elements, do we experience some of subtle elements as well?
What is the gross element consists of?
You know, the 4 1/8 of...
What is all that? What is
space, air, earth, fire? So
yeah, because your question is gross elements. Do you experience subtle elements? What is the gross element consists of?
Of the some parts of subtle element.
Correct. That's it. It's a mix of the subtle elements. So the gross element is See, why they are saying gross is it's not the pure element. That's all they mean. See, pure space is 100% space. Pure air is 100% air. Pure fire is 100% fire. Whereas the gross space, gross air, gross fire is not 100%. It's a mix of space plus other elements. In that sense, it is contaminated element. It is conditioned element, is gross element. So gross element means conditioned by other elements as well.
Can we experience subtle elements if we wanted to?
Subtle element is what makes up the subtle body, which is what we'll come to in the next verse.
Okay, thank you.
You are experiencing it, but you're experiencing it in the form of emotions and thoughts, not as a physical element. The pure subtle elements. Narendra.
Hariom Bhaskarji. I wanted to understand the 5 elements in its original form. They are subtle bodies. Is that right? I mean,
they create the subtle body. The 5 elements combine to create the subtle body.
Okay, but in original form, they are something different. Is that right? I don't understand that. That's why I'm not.
You can't understand the subtle elements per se. It is just a concept. Because you can't experiment upon it.
Right.
The 5 elements, you can't visualize it, you can't experiment upon it. What you can experiment upon are the gross elements. So at this stage, the subtle element is a concept that there are these elements in the pure form, in the original nascent form, which is the tanmatras, the pure elements, and these pure elements combine to create the subtle body. And when these pure elements become conditioned elements, they become the gross elements. The gross elements combine to create the gross body.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, Nitya.
All right, I forgot to ask my second question. Earlier you mentioned that like the vasanas make up like the gross body, but how does that work though? Because like don't we like inherit our physical body and features and stuff like from our parents and they from their parents and so on, like you know, when DNA is passed down and stuff like that?
I'll come to that in the verse after. So next verse is subtle body. The verse after that is causal body. So we'll come to that when we come to verse 14.
Okay, thanks.
Right now, focus on this panchikarna. All right. You've seen the 2 diagrams. That's fine. We're clear. So then we move on to the next question. The next verse, verse 13.
पञ्च प्राणमनो बुद्धिः दशेन्द्रियसमन्वितम् अपञ्चीकृतभूतोत्थम् सूक्ष्माङ्गम् भोगसाधनम् पञ्च प्राणमनो बुद्धिः दशेन्द्रियसमन्वितम् अपञ्चीकृतभूतोत्थम् सूक्ष्माङ्गम् भोगसाधनम्.
The subtle body, instrument of experience, formed from the elements before Panchikarna, consists of the 10 senses, 5 pranas, mind and intellect. So earlier verse, the gross body was described. This was the description of the subtle body is given. Now, what is the difference? In the subtle body, it says it is the instrument of experience, whereas the gross body was the home for experience. Instrument of experience versus home. Instrument of experience. 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 In of experience. This is the difference between engine and the body of the car. The engine is the instrument that drives the car. The body of the car is the home that houses the car, including the engine. So the gross body can be compared to the body of the car. The subtle body can be compared to the engine that drives the car, that drives the body. So what drives your physical body is your subtle body. The fact that you have come to this class is not because your physical body has come on its own. It is your subtle body that is driving the physical body. Experience to experience, you're going based on your mind and intellect. Wherever your mind and intellect takes you, that's where your body goes. Not only in this life, in the next life as well. So subtle body is the instrument of experience. And the subtle body uses the gross body to fulfill desires. Suppose you want to eat nice things. You have a desire to eat nice things. What do you have to do? You need a gross body to eat. You understand? You want to go and visit places. You want to sightsee. It's a desire which is in the mind, but the mind needs the body to go and actually visit places. So without the body, the mind cannot fulfill its desires. Desires are located in the mind, not in the body. So the subtle body means the mind needs the physical body to fulfill vasanas, to fulfill desires. That is the reason why you're born. You're born because you have desires to fulfill. If you didn't have desires, you will not be born. And through this lifetime, you're using your physical body to exhaust your desires. When your physical body can no longer exhaust your desires, that is when you die. And then you acquire another body and you reincarnate. So in other words, the subtle body disposes the gross body because the gross body is not able to fulfill desires. And then it acquires another gross body. And then when that gross body cannot fulfill anymore, it throws that off. Then the next body. So you reincarnate from one body to another body. So birth and death are because of the subtle body that decides to change. When the subtle body decides to change the gross body, you die. Subtle body acquires a new body, you reincarnate. In the Bhagavad Gita, he gives a very simple example. He says, like you change your clothes. Who decides to change the clothes? The wearer. The wearer decides, oh, smelling a little bit. I need to change this, So you change the clothes. You remove the clothes, put on new ones. Exactly like that. That is reincarnation. When the gross body is not suitable anymore to fulfill the desire. And now, what is the subtle body made up of? We already saw that the gross body is made up of the 5 elements after Panchikarna. The subtle body is made up of the 5 elements before Panchikarna. These 5 elements that make the subtle body are the pure elements in its nascent form called Tan Matra. T-A-N, Tan Matra, M-A-T-R-A. Tan Matra means the original pure nascent element. It is like pure gold, 24 karat gold, which is soft which is bendable. But when you mix gold with copper, then it becomes hard, it becomes firm. So the ornaments that a person wears is gold mixed with copper. It's conditioned gold, impure gold. Similarly, pure elements make up the subtle body. And when the pure elements becomes conditioned, becomes gross, the gross elements make up the gross body. And now, what is this subtle body constitute? The subtle body consists of 17 parts. And these 17 parts are given here. The 10 senses. 10 senses means the 5 sense centers of perception and the 5 sense centers of action. Again, you need to distinguish between sense center and sense organ. The physical nose is the sense organ. The physical eyes is the sense organ. But there is a corresponding sense center located in the mind to all the 5 sense organs. When the stimuli hits the eye, you don't see at that stage. But when the stimuli travels to the mind and it hits the sense center of the eye, that's when you see. Simple example would be if you're distracted. Suppose the fellow is reading a book in a cafe or is watching something on the screen in a cafe. And then suddenly he sees in the corner of eye a beautiful girl walking by. And then the eye gets distracted, let's say. You understand? So he's seeing something on the screen in front of him. Nothing registers. The mind is somewhere else with that person. That person has taken away his mind. So when your mind is distracted, you will not register the perception even if the perception is in front of you. So sense center is located in the mind. 5 sense centers of perception and 5 sense centers of action. That is what is given here as 10 senses. So don't confuse the 10 senses to be the organs. Organs form the gross body. The 10 senses, as far as the physical organs are concerned, they constitute the gross body, which was the previous verse. But the sense centers of perception and action constitute the subtle body. And then the 5 pranas. Pranas represent the physiological functions. Prana, apana, samana, vyana, udana. Prana is inhalation. Apana is exhalation. Samana, vyana, udana, digestion, circulation, and thought absorption. So these are physiological functions going on internally. 5 subtle aspects of the prana. Then mind, which consists of feelings and emotions, and intellect, which consists of reason and logic. You'll see that on the screen, the 17 parts which constitute the subtle body. 5 sense centers of perception, 5 sense centers of action, 5 subtle pranas. The manas, mind, buddhi, intellect. Now we have covered gross body, subtle body, and then verse 14, we look at what the causal body is.
अनाद्य विद्या निर्वाच्या कारणोपाधिरुच्यते उपाधिकृतया दन्यम् आत्मानमवधारयेत् अनाद्य विद्या निर्वाच्या कारणोपाधिरुच्यते उपाधिकृतया दन्यम् आत्मानमवधारयेत्.
Avidya, ignorance, which is beginningless and indescribable, is known as the causal body. One should understand the Atman to be other than the three bodies. The Atman is beyond the gross, subtle, and causal body. Now, what is the causal body? The cause of your personality, the cause of your existence is what? Avidya, ignorance. See, it's fascinating when you look at it like that. What are you? You are just ignorance in a consolidated form. Ignorance in a consolidated form is you. Avidya. That's why this causal body is represented as camphor in the temples. They use camphor. They burn camphor. They light the camphor. So what is that camphor? If you leave a piece of camphor in the room and you go away for a couple of hours and you come back, you don't see that camphor. The camphor is sublimated, but you get the fragrance of that camphor in the room. So what is a piece of camphor? A piece of camphor is fragrance in a consolidated form. You don't see fragrance, but when that fragrance becomes a consolidated form, that is camphor. Similarly, what are you? You are ignorance in a consolidated form. In other words, even the most brilliant person in the world is ignorant. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of the self. The ignorance here is the ignorance of the Atman, of your true nature. A brilliant scientist like a Newton or an Einstein is in ignorance. They are ignorant of the self. Whereas a person like a Kabir or a person like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, they were not very literate. They were not highly literate, but they had the knowledge of the self. So even a spiritual person who is illiterate, but who has gained the knowledge of the self, a self-realized person, is more knowledgeable than the best of scientists in the world. Because they have the knowledge of the self, which the scientists don't have. Ignorance from ignorance. See, where do you experience ignorance? You experience ignorance. Every one of you are experiencing ignorance every day. Where do you experience pure ignorance? You experience it in deep sleep. When you're in the state of dreamless sleep, what do you experience? You experience blankness. You experience darkness. You experience nothingness. That state of nothingness, blankness, darkness is the state of ignorance, which is the state of deep sleep. In the Bible, it says God created the world out of nothing. there's a doctrine of creation out of nothing. In the Bible, in the Quran, they have this concept, the doctrine of creation out of nothing. Here we're explaining what that means. What is that nothing? That nothing is ignorance. From that ignorance, this world is created. You are created. Incidentally, this ignorance is also known by another term, vasanas. What is vasanas? Vasanas is ignorance of the self. Causal body is equal to ignorance of the self, is equal to vasanas, is equal to deep sleep. Whether you use deep sleep, whether you use vasanas, whether you use ignorance of the self, whether you use causal body, they all mean the same. It's used in a different context. And what are the qualities of this ignorance? What are the qualities of the causal body? Beginningless and indescribable. Beginningless and indescribable. The Atman is different from the causal body, is beyond the causal body. It's beyond the subtle body, beyond the gross body. See, the way you got to understand it is, suppose you're wearing layers and layers of clothing. So you wear an undergarment, and then you wear a trouser or a shirt, and you wear a jumper on top of it, and you wear a jacket on top of it. You understand? You wear a hat. It's like that. So you're wearing various layers. Similarly, the Atman has got various layers. It's got the causal body, it's got the subtle body, it's got the gross body. The different layers cover the Atman. And we're going to see that in the next verse. One more verse, we'll take verse 15.
पञ्चकोशादियोगेन तत्तन्मय इव स्थितः शुद्धात्मा नीलवस्त्रादि योगेन स्फटिको यथा पञ्चकोशादियोगेन तत्तन्मय इव स्थितः शुद्धात्मा नीलवस्त्रादि योगेन स्फटिको यथा.
From union with the five sheets, the pure self Atman appears to be like them, just as a crystal appears blue when in contact with blue cloth. What is the Atman? Atman is your own essential nature. Your original state is the state of Atman. Now that Atman has become conditioned by its association with the three bodies. So how do you see yourself today? You see yourself as being limited. You see yourself as being affected. You see yourself as being conditioned. This is not you. This is the conditioned you. The real you is unaffected, unsullied. It is unlimited. The Atman is unlimited. It is unsullied, it's pure. But you feel you're sullied by your desires. You feel you're limited, you're affected. Shankara says, no, you're not. Because of your wrong union, wrong association, wrong identification with the gross, subtle and causal bodies. Crystal is colorless, but when you keep a blue cloth underneath the crystal and place the crystal on top of the blue cloth, the crystal appears blue. It acquires the color from that piece of cloth that it identifies with. Water is colorless, but when you pour water into a green glass, water appears green. Water has not become green. It appears green because of its association with the glass. Similarly, crystal has not become blue. It appears blue. So there's a difference in the two statements. Crystal is colorless. Crystal appears blue. Water is colorless. Water appears green. Similarly, Atman is unlimited, but Atman appears limited because of his association with the equipments. So whenever you feel affected, you feel stressed, you feel limited, you have to remind yourself what? I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not this intellect. I am that Atman within. The Atman within me is not affected, is not stressed. Because of my wrong identification, therefore, I get affected. I feel stressed. You shift your identification from the equipments to the Atman within. You become a different person. Atman doesn't go through sorrow. It is the mind that goes through sorrow. Because of your identification with the mind, you feel sorrow. But if you shift the identification to the Atman, you won't feel sorrow. Panchakosha. Panchakosha means the 5 sheaths. Sheath, the meaning of the word sheath is, it is a covering, but it doesn't touch it. These 5 layers cover the Atman, but they don't touch the Atman. You've seen the scabbard for the sword, the covering for the sword. When you place the sword in the scabbard doesn't touch the sword. If it touches the sword will get dented, it'll lose its sharpness. So it covers the sword but doesn't touch it. Similarly, the sheath covers the Atman but doesn't touch the Atman. And what are the 5 sheaths? Foot sheath, vital air sheath, mental sheath, intellectual sheath, and bliss sheath. Annamaya kosha is the food sheath. Food sheath consists of the physical body because the body is created by food, maintained by food, and ends up as food for other creatures. That is a food sheath. Beyond the food sheath is the pranamaya kosha, the vital air sheath, which consists of the pranas, the physiological functions. We saw that earlier, the 5 pranas. Then you have the mental sheath, which is the mind. Then the intellectual sheath, which is the intellect. And then the 5th sheath is the bliss sheath, which should not be confused with the bliss of self-realization. This is the bliss of deep sleep, the bliss of ignorance. Atman is beyond the bliss sheath. It's beyond all the 5 sheaths. So see that diagram. The Om in the center, that Om is the Atman. And that Atman is beyond the bliss sheath, is beyond the intellectual sheath, beyond the mental sheath, Beyond the vital air, food sheath. Food sheath is the grossest. And then subtler than the food sheath is the vital air. Subtler than that is the mental, intellectual. Bliss sheath is the subtlest. But beyond the bliss sheath is the Atman. From the union with the five sheaths, the pure self-Atman appears to be like them, just as a crystal appears blue when in contact with blue cloth. I know you have loads of questions. Huh? Loads of questions you all have. But I have to leave it here. See, I wanted to cover at least till this 15th verse. So you have plenty to think about. And as we already announced in the previous classes, these 15 verses will be there for you to review and reflect. And these 15 verses will be made available, in the next month when I'm away. The only reason I'm going away is for your sake, for the sake of the volunteers, for the sake of the team, because the volunteers who have been running these classes, they've been doing that for the whole year. Every week, uninterrupted, they're doing it. I feel for them, They don't ask me, they don't tell me, but I want to give them a little break. So whether it is Sandhya, whether it is Hansa, Jalu, Shravani, Mino, all these members, they do this throughout the year. And you don't even see them. They are in the background. But without them, we won't be able to conduct any of these classes. They prepare the slides, they change the slides, they start the class, play the bhajans, end the class, upload the recording, all that they do it. So this 1 month, I'm giving them a bit of a break so that they can recover, so that then they are in a proper condition when we start it next year. And not only for the coordinators, but also for you class members, a little time for you to gather what you have learned this year. See, you're just going from one book to the other, one class to the other. This month, you take the time to, first of all, go through whatever I've gone through this year. What are the different books? What are the different things? Are there any questions? Make a note of it in your notebook. Gather the thoughts and reflect upon the knowledge. Reflection is as important as reading, perhaps more important. Otherwise, I don't need to go. I am very happy to stay and continue with the classes. But because the team needs it, class members need it, I feel it is useful to give that little bit of break. So don't take it as holiday. We all have holiday for 1 month. It's not holiday. It is study break for reflection.